This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for your company. US President Donald Trump has delivered a powerful address marking Memorial Day, honouring the fallen American heroes at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia.
Warriors have left behind the blessings of home and family to answer their nation's call. They've offered all that they had within them and given their last breaths to each and every one of us that we might live safe and breathe free. This morning we pay tribute to their immortal deeds. We share in the sorrow of their beloved families, and as one nation we give thanks for the ultimate gift they have so selflessly given to all of us. These warriors, and that's what they are, is great, great warriors.
The President was joined by Vice President J.D. Vance and Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth, and the leaders spent time with Gold Star families and service members, and the President laid a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier. But it was Vice President J.D. Vance's speech that, in my opinion, I thought was exceptional. His tribute was heartfelt and deeply moving, and as he spoke about honouring the courageous men and women of the US military who sacrificed their lives, he warned that going forward, leaders must treat the lives of troops as the most precious resource, and we must be very cautious about going to war.
The very best way to honour the fallen is to only ask the next generation to make the ultimate sacrifice when they absolutely must. We must be cautious in sending our people to war.
Joining us now is Hilary Fordwich, President and founder of Strelmark. Hilary, it's great to see you. J.D. Vance has warned against endless wars in his Memorial Day speech, and while he was honouring fallen soldiers, he was sending a clear message to future leaders about putting the lives of troops above political ambition. Here's a bit more from his speech.
I try to honour the fallen is to commit ourselves to being worthy of their sacrifice. If you're a husband, be the best husband you can be. If you're a mom, be the best mom that you can be. If you're a citizen, be the very best citizen that you can be. Because together, let us build a better country, a more perfect union, and strive to be the kind of nation worthy of the sacrifice of the people that we honor today. On this Memorial Day, let us remember that we have been given a great gift, often by people none of us ever met. Let us cherish that gift and make ourselves worthy of it.
So powerful. What's your reaction to J.D. Vance's remarks?
Well, pleasure to be back with you again, Gabriella. And I will say it sounded rather presidential to me. It was a very unifying message as well, because I think he really addressed everyone, whether you're a mother, you're a husband, you're I thought it was just very, inclusive, and the Republicans don't stand for that sort of inclusivity, but that's what it really did. Also, very importantly, I think when he made the point that we have to be grateful to people that we've never met. I had two great uncles that died at the Battle of the Somme. Obviously, they went there from England, but I think that that's so important. People don't realize that all of us that live under peace in the world have done so from those that have fought that will never meet. So I think he made a very good point.
Absolutely. Well, let's look at one of the biggest conflicts that's going on in the world right now, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And Donald Trump has blasted Russian leader Vladimir Putin, saying he's not happy with him. Let's take a listen.
I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time. Always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
Mr. President, what do you want to do about that?
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake.
Now, this comes after Russia launched a record number of drones against Ukraine, killing more than a dozen people. We know that Donald Trump has expressed admiration for Putin in the past, but he's showing growing frustration in recent weeks as truce negotiations appear to be deadlocked. Trump also posted on X that Putin has gone crazy. I mean, Hilary, what's your assessment of this development President Trump is considering sanctions against Moscow now. How likely is that?
Well, that's really the next step, because what's the last resort? The last resort is something that most of us don't want across the world. But I think that the sanctions they could actually implement would cripple the Russian economy. He actually said that he fears and has always thought that Putin wants all of Ukraine. And President Trump has said that will be the end of Russia. I think that economically, there are levers that should have been pulled, in my humble opinion, a long time ago to put a far greater amount of pressure on Putin. Don't forget also the price of oil has really funded this entire war. I think there's a lot that could have been done from day one of this administration. And let's hope that that starts now, because there were 10, you mentioned that bombardment yesterday, there were 10 killed in Kyiv, and it's one of the greatest bombardments and drone attacks since the war began.
The Kremlin has responded, claiming that Donald Trump was showing signs of emotional overload after he called Putin absolutely crazy. Look, it's going to be probably embarrassing for Donald Trump if he's not able to bring this war to an end.
Well, yes, actually, you're very correct there, Gabriella, because one of the things he had said on the campaign trail was, I will end this war on day one, which was obviously something very measurable and something that certainly hasn't happened. I think it was far more complex than he or anyone in his team and staff recognized. A very complex issue. And I don't think that there's any end of this in any near term. I think it's only the sanctions that could actually start to move the needle.
Hillary will return to speaking about other conflicts that are taking place around the world, but I have to get to this story about Macron because it is absolutely shocking. French President Emmanuel Macron has been assaulted by his wife, First Lady Brigitte Macron. Now, the incident where Brigitte appears to slap her husband has been caught on camera as their plane was about to disembark to Vietnam. This is The Vision. Look, Emmanuel Macron is dismissing the video that is going viral, saying they were just joking, they were just play fighting. But Hillary, Brigitte Macron is a 72-year-old First Lady. That makes her a leader. The eyes of the world are on her. It's absolutely not okay. And I don't think anyone is buying this spin from Macron that he is saying it was just a joke. What's your reaction?
Well, if it had been just a joke, then they would have been giggling and holding hands and laughing down the steps all the way down there, the gangway, but they weren't. It was frigid. It was icy. She did not take his hand. He did not take hers. What I think is interesting is the way that there was the slap or the attempted slap, and he, looked aghast. He looked horrified. And then he quickly, immediately put on this fake camera-ready smile the moment that he saw all the photographers down at the end of that stair. So I think that tells everything, the way they came down with an icy steps there.
Absolutely. Look, I'm in shock watching that vision. I think Brigitte Macron needs to address the incident, possibly apologise. But returning to the US, Donald Trump has delayed the 50% tariff on the EU from June 1st to July 9 after a call with the President of the European Commission. Now, this is to buy more time for negotiations.
We had a very nice call, and I agreed to move it. I believe June 9th would be, July 9th would be the date. That was the date she requested. Could we move it from June 1st to July 9th? And I agreed to do that. And that she said we will rapidly get together and see if we can work something out.
Hillary, is Donald Trump being fair here? He's, of course, always criticised for being pretty chaotic, but is this part of his strategy?
Well, yes, because don't forget, the EU has 10% tariffs on everything coming in from the US, whereas the US only has 2.5% tariffs. That's why there's this massive trade deficit, Gabriella. The US imports 43.1 billion in products from the EU, and the EU only imports and returns 6 billion. So massive trade deficit. It's never been fair. The EU really has always thrived on regulations, whereas, of course, the US thrives on innovation. And while the EU is always griping that they don't have the Google, so they don't have all the high tech, they don't have all the entrepreneurs, well, it's because of all the regulations, Gabriella. They don't have that kind of innovation over there. So they don't have the same, there's no way they're going to be able to have all those products over there. What this comes down to is that the EU is really having sort of a collective action issue, a problem, because you've got the German car manufacturers and the French produce, such as French wine, they're pressuring von der Leyen. There is no such thing as one united EU. It is 27 different countries with different agendas. And I think what you're seeing is the reason that she placed this call, she wants this to be delayed, is because she knows she has to do some negotiating very quickly now.
Okay, let's look at the situation in the Middle East. And Trump Special Envoy Steve Witkoff claims that terror group Hamas tried to pull a bait and switch on the latest ceasefire deal by altering the terms of the proposal. It's reported that Hamas claimed it had been presented with a new US proposal that would see a 70-day ceasefire and the release of 5 living hostages on the first and final days of the truce. But a disappointed Steve Witkoff has blasted Hamas, claiming that the terms of the deal he had actually sent to them were very different, and that included the release of 10 living hostages and 19 hostages that are now dead in return for 45 to 60 days of a ceasefire and the release of Palestinian prisoners. Now, just reading this, it's heartbreaking. It shows how difficult the situation is that, the United States is trying to deal and negotiate with a terror group. And of course, Israel is constantly being criticised for its strikes against Gaza. But the reality is that Hamas refuses to release the hostages. That option is available to them. Hillary, there was hope a few months ago when we were seeing hostages return back to their families, that maybe this war and this conflict could come to an end. It's still ongoing. It's still awful to see that we are still in this situation. Where is this heading?
Well, Gabriella, that is a very good question. I don't know who knows the answer to that, because what I would say is obviously Netanyahu and the Israelis, what they want is they basically want to see, the Palestinians and Hamas obliterated, because they fear another October 7th. And why not? Obviously, and I think that what's really sad about the global dialogue is people aren't talking about, and the global media isn't really talking about October 7th, what Hamas did. What I have heard and read is that the Palestinian people are very sick and tired of Hamas, because Hamas is taking any relief, any aid that comes in, they're just taking it for themselves. Now back to the agreement. I just would say simply, there has been conflict, there have been wars, there has been all of this happening in the Middle East since the beginning of time. I don't see it ending anytime soon. And I think the Israelis are diametrically opposed to any kind of negotiation, and Hamas isn't to be trusted.
Let's talk about the talks between Donald Trump and Iran. Donald Trump said that US negotiators had a very good talk with Iran, with an Iranian delegation over the weekend, as he seeks a deal to prevent Tehran from developing a nuclear weapon.
Talks with Iran yesterday and today, and let's see what happens. But I think we could have some good news on the Iran front. Likewise with Hamas on Gaza. We want to see if we can stop that. And Israel, we've been talking to them, and we want to see if we can stop that.
Now, since returning to office, Donald Trump has revived his maximum pressure campaign on Iran, backing talks but warning of military action if diplomacy fails. But now, after multiple rounds of nuclear talks, is an agreement actually close?
I think it's closer than it has been. I think this is what the Iranians want. Don't forget, they don't want their economy crippled. They have been isolated globally. So I do think this is something that is closer than certainly some of the other conflicts or anything else that we've been talking about. So I think that there is hope on this front, although what they don't want to do is the very thing that President Trump wants, which is no nuclear development, no further nuclear development. That has to come to an end. And of course, that is the sticking point. If they'll concede on that, I do think we'll see some progress, yes.
Hillary Fordwich, President and founder of Strellmark, thank you so much for your time and joining us on Power Hour.
Pleasure, Gabriella.
It's time for Media Meltdowns. Well, CNN anchor and co-author of Original Sin, Jake Tapper, still doesn't get it. He's been out promoting his new tell-all book, on CNN, of course, where he's putting a lot of spin on why people should pay for his book and claiming he wasn't really part of the big Biden cover-up. According to Jake Tapper, no, he didn't scrutinise the issue of Biden's health at the time because he was just too polite.
How has writing this important book, investigating the Biden presidency, Jake, informed you about how to cover the current president?
Well, I just think in general, not Trump specific, but in general, I think that the press corps, and I'm certainly including myself, needs to worry less about politeness when it comes to these health issues, and needs to be even more aggressive when it comes to demanding transparency on health issues when it comes to the president. President Trump, while he appears healthy, he has not been transparent about his health records. And I think that that's something that the American people have a right to.
Of course, the conversation quickly shifts away from Joe Biden's cognitive decline, and there are now suggestions coming from CNN that Donald Trump might be hiding something, and we should all be worried about that. But Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson have been doing the media rounds, and more CNN colleagues have been putting the tough questions to the authors, whether it was really fair that the book is now getting some backlash.
Obviously, as you know, there has been quite a bit of criticism and a little bit of backlash to this book, just because some people are saying, well, you know, how much did you know? When did you know it? Should you have been more forthcoming? Just given your figure, given what you do for a living, should you have been more forthcoming to the public about what you knew about Biden's decline? Jake, is that criticism fair? Just give us your take on that.
Well, everything I knew about Biden's condition, I shared in real time. I didn't know anything more than most other reporters in Washington. I saw Alex doing some aggressive reporting from the White House, and I booked him on my show, and I urged CNN to hire him. And I'm not going to take all responsibility or credit for him becoming a CNN commentator, but some of it I deserve. But sure, look, I mean, I, along with most members of the legacy media, did not cover this sufficiently.
But the interview didn't stop there, and this CNN anchor, while she's giggling and laughing, praises Jake Tapper for the timeline of his book.
After the election, I sent him a proposal of like 2 or 3 pages. He said he was in, and then we got to work. And it was
that is a very fast timeline. It's very fast.
It's very fast. It was, you know, we took time off in that period.
Amazing. Fast timeline. This book has been published 5 years too late. Someone needs to remind CNN that the American people are not falling for this, not this time. This is a network that lied repeatedly, and its star journalist is now profiting from telling you something that hosts on Sky News Australia were telling you for years. Joining us now is Alex Stein, comedian and host of Prime Time with Alex Stein. Alex, it's great to see you. It is just wild to see how much time Jake Tapper has been spending promoting his book, which is essentially old news, and he needs a new angle to make it interesting. So it's, oh, I'm a polite guy, which is why I didn't tell you the truth. And also Donald Trump could be hiding a health issue from all of us. I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, I mean, how dishonest was he for the past 4 years, and now we want to trust him? So, I mean, it's ridiculous that he's on some sort of credibility tour when he has no credibility whatsoever. And, you know, let's be honest, like, you look at the mainstream media, when I consider CNN and MSNBC, they should be so happy right now that Donald Trump is in office because they don't have to defend a walking corpse as a president. So they should be really celebrating this presidency. But, of course, now they're trying to go back and change history and kind of write a different story that wasn't the case at the time when they were in office. And they didn't call out any of Joe Biden's, cognitive disabilities.
And we have the receipts. Well, former US Vice President Kamala Harris has visited Australia. She was a headline speaker at the Australasian Real Estate Conference on the Gold Coast, where she was reportedly paid $500,000 to essentially chuckle on stage and make jokes about being unemployed.
As I said, I think your best work is ahead of you for sure, 100%. I am unemployed right now.
No one must speak truth.
Oh, she's a comedian. Kamala Harris was introduced on stage as one of the most successful women in history, and as we heard in that clip, her best work is ahead of her. I mean, do you agree with that?
Well, you know, she can't do any worse than spending $1 billion on her presidential campaign and somehow ending up $100 million in debt. And good for her going to, the Gold Coast. But let's be real. I just checked Grok. I had to fact check it. She didn't go to Australia once while she was vice president. So now she goes over there. I wonder why. I wonder why she's over there. Oh, I know why she's over there. She's there for the money. So Kamala Harris is not having very good job prospects or many offers here in America that are that great. So, what is she going to do? She's going to go to Australia. So good for her for going over there. But, it's a little less important when she's not the vice president anymore.
Yeah, and speaking at a real estate conference when she knows nothing about real estate, getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars and then laughing about being unemployed. I mean, that is Kamala Harris. It appears, though, that Democrats want Jasmine Crockett to lead the Democratic Party. Let's take a listen to this.
Jasmine is frankly the type of leader that we're really looking to support in some senses, right? Somebody who is out there that frankly doesn't give a damn what the other side, at least the elected Republicans in Congress say what they believe in. And at least even if you don't agree with her, you know what she stands for. Yeah. Because she makes it very clear. And people are really craving that right now. They don't want more politicians that say talking points that it doesn't even feel like they believe, or you don't even really know what they mean. They want somebody who's out there that says what they believe and doesn't care what somebody else thinks about it. They want that authenticity.
And in case we forgot how brilliant Jasmine Crockett is, here she is earlier in the year claiming that it's not a crime to enter the US illegally.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why they're so frustrated, because they really want our local law enforcement to go out and round up people when they could be looking out for the murderers and the sexual abusers as well as the robbers. They want them to go and round people up on civil accusations.
And what has she been saying recently? Well, she's pushing this fake news narrative that also the hosts of The View have been pushing, and that is that Donald Trump is a new Joe Biden.
Seen as the world leaders that we historically have been, the world deserves better. It is time for Republicans to start calling him out and start questioning his mental acuity and whether or not he is equipped to serve mentally. We know when it comes down to his criminality, he is not qualified to serve, but this is just absolutely deplorable.
You cannot make this stuff up. Alex, is this who should be leading the Democrats?
Honestly, she should be leading the Democrats because she's going to lead them off a cliff, in my personal opinion. And I live here in Dallas, and I have an office in her district. And let me tell you something. Jasmine Crockett is a phony, baloney criminal defense attorney. And what do criminal defense attorneys do? They defend their clients even when they know they're guilty. So she's perfect for politics because she even knows what she's saying is a lie, but she'll still defend it because she's trained to do so. So Jasmine Crockett, a lot of her affect that she's put on since she's made it to Congress is different than when she was a Texas representative, where she acted a little more demure and a little more, dare I say, normal. Now that she's gotten to the, one of the most powerful positions, in Congress, she's kind of leaned into being a little more urban and being a little more gangster to get attention. And I'll be honest, it's working. But at the same time, she's a phony. She's a fraud. She's going to lead them right off a cliff. So if they want to anoint her or AOC as their leader, go ahead. They can have Tweedledee and Tweedledum. That'll make it a lot easier for the people that actually care about this country.
Yeah, good luck to them. Former FBI Director James Comey has called the Republican Party white supremacists while appearing on MSNBC. Let's listen to what he said.
Do you think there's one of the things that is happening now is that the Trump administration is, of course, testing the system in ways it hasn't been tested before. In the law enforcement sense, do you think there are laws that should be put in place that would help better manage this that aren't in place now? Are we equipped? Is the law enforcement system and the legal system equipped to deal with what we're seeing now?
Probably there could be changes at the margins, but in the main, we have the tools. There are cultural impediments to doing this work. Let's say you work in the FBI. You know that one of the two political parties is let me put it nicely, white supremacist adjacent at a minimum. And so why would you want to throw your career on that side of the line and be summoned to Capitol Hill to be asked, why are you pursuing these innocent groups? And so we have a cultural impediment to working it effectively that should get more attention than it does.
You know, James Comey has previously accused Donald Trump of stirring racism, so these comments really come as no surprise. But they also come after James Comey posted a picture on Instagram, 8647, and then claimed he had no idea that that might imply a threat, with 86 generally understood to mean get rid of, and 47, of course, being a clear reference to Donald Trump, the 47th president. Why is MSNBC still giving James Comey airtime?
Because they like James Comey, even though it was him bringing up Hillary's emails that basically cost Hillary the 2016 election. But James Comey is a big bird-looking idiot. The guy has about 2 brain cells, considering that he was in charge of the FBI, but he's going to go around and say that he doesn't know what 8647 would even mean. That's ridiculous. He knows 87 would mean kick somebody out or take somebody out or even kill somebody if we're talking about it in, you know, a more serious term. And he knows what 47 means with the president. So he's playing dumb. He's an idiot. He's got a book that nobody wants to buy or read. So, you know, I hope that I run into James Comey one day and I can call him out for, you know, being against the American people. And of course, it's always a white guy complaining about racism. Like anybody's ever been racist to him in his entire life. Maybe they're racist, you know, towards him because he's too tall or something. You know, he doesn't fit in a car, doesn't fit in an airplane seat. But other than that, he's never faced 1 ounce of racism. So give me a break, James Comey. It's just always the perpetual victim of these people.
Yeah, absolutely. Donald Trump has blasted Harvard University and criticised foreign countries for paying nothing towards the education of their citizens who attend these elite universities. Trump says that there are too many foreign students at Harvard and has announced plans to revoke the university's ability to enrol them. This is what Trump has had to say.
But they're 31%, but they refuse to tell us who the people are. We want to know who the people. Now, a lot of the foreign students we wouldn't have a problem with. I'm not going to have a problem with foreign students, but it shouldn't be 31%. It's too much because we have Americans that want to go there and to other places, and they can't go there.
This issue is causing controversy here in Australia. What's the reaction to it in the US?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're even giving Harvard billions of dollars, because if you think about it, any student that get into Harvard can go to any other university, a public university, probably on a full ride scholarship. But somehow we're giving them billions of dollars. And Donald Trump on True Social said that he wants to reallocate those funds for trade schools. And I think that'd be great, because I'm in Texas and it's starting to get hot and my AC's acting up and we can barely get an HVAC guy to come out here and fix it. So we need more HVAC people and less Harvard snobs. So, you know, I love it. I can't believe that we subsidize so much for Harvard. You would just think that they could be able to afford their own students, considering their endowment, I believe, is $50 billion. So it's ridiculous. I'm happy that we're not giving Harvard so much money. Forget about them basically being terrorist adjacent. I don't even care about that as much as I care about actually helping American taxpayers that need those resources more than, the poor students at Harvard. Give me a break.
Alex Stein, host of Primetime with Alex Stein. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Time to check in on all the royal news, and joining us is News Corp columnist Angela Mollard. Angela, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too.
King Charles is set to become the first monarch since 1977 to open Canada's parliament. He'll be just the second monarch in Britain's history to participate in the ritual after late Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee tour nearly half a century ago. Now, all eyes will, of course, be on the King, but what can we expect?
Well, look, obviously this is a very important moment. He's got to be very careful, of course, because he needs to be impartial, politically impartial. So he'll give this address, but this is hugely significant. This is a real act of soft diplomacy, because we know that he has lent into meeting with Trump. He's invited Trump back to the UK. And, of course, Donald Trump is suggesting that Canada become another state of America. So to show sovereignty and to support the sovereignty of the Canadians, his role there, I think it's really smart of him to have to go there. But there's a secondary element as well, which is that the popularity of the royals is waning in Canada, and they are now, in the face of this attack from Trump, seeing the monarchy as having their spine. So it's actually a smart move for the monarchy, for the king and queen to be there as well, because it shores up their reputation and the relationship between them and Canada
and their relevance. Yes, let's talk about Meghan Markle, because her popularity in Britain has reached a record low. Her favourability rating has dropped to just 20%, meaning it's only Prince Andrew who's more disliked than her. This is according to a YouGov poll which found the public perception of Meghan Markle was now at its worst since it started tracking the data back in 2017. So despite the Netflix shows, the podcasts, Brits rather just aren't buying it.
That's absolutely right. And I think it's really noticeable whenever I'm in the UK or whenever I'm speaking to a friend. I used to work there for a decade. Speaking to British journalists, they just have no time for her at all. And I think it's that element of the fact that she rejected the monarchy, and they're taking that pretty hard. In Australia, I think we have a more balanced view of her. We're curious of her, and certainly there's a different approach between younger and older people. Younger people see her more favourably. Right. Older people have no time for her at all. But as you say, 2017, when she first came on the scene, she was huge. We loved her. She came down to Australia. They could do no wrong. She was this new brand of princess that we were all excited about. And now for her to be seen this unfavourably, I mean, if you think about it, when Brexit happened and she left the royal family, her favourability was at 55% there then. So to slip even so much after in these 5 years is extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. And now Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have reportedly created their own royal household, royal staffing structure to make it more of a hierarchical system. So according to the Daily Mail, Meredith Kendall-Mains will be at the helm of a team of 11 operating out of Montecito in the UK. And this comes as the couple continue pursuing their professional lives separately. Now, they've been slammed for this new royal structure after they've spent so much time rubbishing the royal family. But what do you make of this move, and what does it tell us?
Look, it's really interesting. What it tells us is that everything that's gone beforehand has failed. But I don't necessarily think it's just the structure. And what I think is interesting about this is we're moving from a Montecito model to a monarchy model. This is very much how the royal family run it. But central to any relationship is how you actually relate and communicate. And now, unless that has changed, I can't see this model working for them. That said, there are great people. There are people who have worked, I mean, as you say, Meredith Mains is at the top there. And look, it is more hierarchical, so she's above all those other people. So you're hoping that there'll be some level of sort of leadership within it that will work for them. But the fact is that they cannot keep staff, so they have to do something differently. They don't just have to hire differently. But I think the point you make about the hypocrisy that's seen is that Harry, of course, has criticised the courtiers, the way the monarchy works at length, and now he's finally recognising that that model does actually work. And we're looking at, people like Sir Clive Alderton, who work for the King and Queen. They are so brilliant at their job. Mark Boland, who was the PR, the comms expert, who saw Camilla reintroduced to the royal family after Diana's death, and for her to be where she is now in public imagination, say compared to Meghan's ratings, shows the work that a good PR can do. So hopefully it'll work for them, because they need to get ahead, not just on branding, but on how they are seen globally. Yeah, and it's hard to see them actually getting ahead, because it's just getting worse for them, just as we reported on with the popularity. But turning our attention to the far more popular royals, Prince William and Princess Catherine have welcomed some adorable new additions to the family. Their pet dog, Orla, has given birth to 4 puppies. Very exciting news for the family. Do we know if the puppies are here to stay? Well, who knows if they'll keep one. I think they'll keep one of them. Orla is the dog that they got from Catherine's brother. His dog, Ella, had puppies, and Orla was one of them. And James Middleton, Catherine's brother, has spoken a lot about how the dogs and the pets help them with their mental health. Look, I can imagine those 3 kids in the, out at Windsor making a hard play for a second puppy in that household. I mean, who can deny a little kid a puppy? But I don't know if they'd be keeping all 4. That would be, I mean, it's not the biggest house that they live in. They've only got a 4-bedroom house. So, but I'd love to know who they bred this dog with, because it's not like they send it out into the park like everyone else, do they? And breed it with whoever comes along. This would be well well-bred dogs. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure there'll be a bit of pressure coming from the children, but we'll see what they do. Now, finally, the story that everyone is talking about, the Beckhams. There are concerns that David and Victoria Beckham fear that there may be no way back at this point between them and their son Brooklyn. This is after Brooklyn shared a pretty pointed message on Instagram. Brooklyn and his wife Nicola are understood to be at the heart of this fallout with the family. Now, Brooklyn seemed to make his feelings clear on an Instagram video where he claimed that he would always choose his wife, Nicola. Look, it's a sad situation, but it certainly appears that it's not getting better anytime soon.
No, and I think one of the hardest things is that the optics on this have always been that the Beckhams are such a close-knit family. We know from watching that amazing series on that. I loved that, you know, and it showed the closeness of the family. And Victoria and David are very much about seeing to be unity, harmony, that they are, you know, that they all love each other. Now, this is really problematic. But what I think is also interesting about it is that it mirrors, obviously, the royal family, what's happened with Harry, but it also is highly relatable for other families. People are always falling out with families. Brooklyn Beckham is 26. As you say, he's put up this Instagram post saying, I'll always be, you know, on your side. Or what did he say? I'll always choose you, baby. You know what? 26-year-olds are not the same as 36-year-olds. He'll be making different decisions in a decade's time. And I'm concerned that their ability to not find a way to repair speaks volumes about how they might not be able to repair with each other should any falling out occur. You know, when people hold their ground like that and don't have that ability to communicate their way out of it, it means that the rest of their relationships don't usually flourish either.
Yeah, no, that's a very valid point. Angela Mollard, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Great to talk to you.
You too.
And that is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.